Welcome to Minibytes session 17. This is recording your lessons using voice or video over PowerPoint. If you want to use the Microsoft Innovative Educator code at the Microsoft Educator Center, you can use TGTB C7A721, and that will give you 300 credits towards your Microsoft Innovative Educator qualification, which is recognized by Microsoft internationally, but also gives you a stepping stone to becoming a Microsoft Innovative Educator expert. If you want to go that way, please let me know about the end of the session or contact me afterwards by email, and I will happily take you to the next steps. This is brought to you as always by Schools ICT, which is North Yorkshire's service which supports the physical and remote and cloud-based computing services, and the EdTech service, which is part of Schools ICT. We're also brought via and facilitated via NES, which is North Yorkshire Education Services. So together we're going through a rebranding, which is NES Digital. Sorry, so I have a little bit of a cough here. I'm going to try and avoid that and work through it. So today's session is all about recording PowerPoint as a slideshow, which will just work by itself. So as you might expect, I'm going to be using a PowerPoint slideshow today, and I'm going to make sure that my sound is on. So I'm just going to close this slideshow down and go back to Teams. And when I move on to sharing my screen, I will be including my computer sound, and that means that you will see what I expect you to see and you will hear what I'm seeing and hearing. So this is a pre-recorded slideshow here on PowerPoint. You can see it's been pre-recorded because I've used this. I've got this icon in the corner which allows me to play the sound. I'm going to play through the whole slideshow first to show the basis of it, and then I will show you in a new one how I created this presentation. The benefits of doing a pre-recorded slideshow in PowerPoint is that you can have the audio linked intrinsically to the PowerPoint file. It's smaller than the video file, or it creates a very small video file, and therefore you can get a lot of information on a fairly small bandwidth without downloading too much. So without further ado, I'm going to play this PowerPoint slideshow just for your awareness. The audio is pre-recorded, so you are seeing and hearing what a child in your class might see or hear on a pre-recorded PowerPoint. Narrations and timings can enhance a web-based or a self-running slideshow. If you've got a sound card, microphone and speakers, or optionally a webcam and the right licensing, you can record your PowerPoint presentation and capture narrations, slide timings and ink gestures, all in PowerPoint. After you've made the recording, it's like any other presentation that can be played for you or your audience using slideshow, or you can save the presentation as a video file. I'll tell you about that in a bit. What you can capture in PowerPoint is the narrations, the slide timings, and any ink or pen which you use. So as a user of PowerPoint, if I use an ink, a laser pointer, I will shine that on the screen, and you may or may not see that. If I change that to a pen, I can draw on the screen in pen, and that will be shown in PowerPoint. I can highlight as I go using PowerPoint, and I can also use the eraser to wipe out what I've written. They're all visible in the recording of PowerPoint slideshow as well. I've got to make sure I click off those tools to make sure I get back to my next slide. What else can I do? Well, depending on your license, I can't do it on my version, but you might have a webcam access and you can record your video as well. If that's the case, you'll appear as a video of yourself in the bottom corner, and you'll be able to see a talking screen in the bottom corner as indicated by the ink there. Your webcam will record sound as well, or your microphone may record sound as well, and that will be recorded in PowerPoint at the same time. Please note that if you are using recordings on PowerPoint, they're added and stored on a per slide basis. So each slide will be recorded and keep its audio with the slide. This means that if you jumble the slides up later on, the slide recordings will be on the slide themselves, so you can rearrange the order as you wish without having to re-record anything. It also means it's easy to pause for a break while recording a presentation. The brief buffer of silence, you can either do this automatically by playing sound after a 2-second gap, or you can breathe in and breathe out or switch off your microphone as you record. Note that it's not available on the web version only, it's on the desktop version of PowerPoint 2016, PowerPoint 2019, but it's not on the desktop. It's not on the browser version of PowerPoint for web. You can't record PowerPoint narration if you're using a microphone for other tools as well. So if you're in a Teams meeting, you can't then record a PowerPoint presentation, which is why I've recorded this in advance. When you're saving your presentation, if you save it as a PPT file, a PowerPoint file, or a PPTX file, then you'll be able to edit that and rearrange all the audio as you go. If you're happy with the audio that you have, you can always re-record it and edit as you want. But in the final version, if you want to save it, so someone clicks on it and opens it, If they click on the PPT file and run the show, they'll get your narration and timings. If they don't do that and you want to force them to watch it in order, you can save the file as a video file or an MP4 file or a PPS, which is a PowerPoint show file. Both the MP4 and the PPS files cannot be edited, but once they are created, they will automatically start the slideshow with your narration and timings once they begin. So that's the end of the PowerPoint recorded slideshow. I hope you found this useful. And there we go, back to real live me. I'm going to press escape on that. What you can see is that the slideshow itself was much the same as me talking through a slideshow. I've created a couple of different PowerPoints here. I've got a blank one here at the very beginning. It's just a basic template. And I've got the PowerPoint you've just seen the presentation of. Now this PowerPoint you've just seen the presentation of, you can see the slides in order. The ink is still remaining from where I drew them on the screen, drew it on the screen. And you can see the audio buttons in each corner with the menus that pop up. How I recorded this, I'll show you in a moment. But what you do is when you're recording it, you can record them one slide at a time, or you can record a full presentation at once. It mentioned in the slideshow a couple of different things. The first one is about slide timings and narration. At the very top of my screen, you can see I've got play narrations, use timings, and show media controls. These are all available in the slideshow tab. So if you want to do any recording of PowerPoint presentations, you need to be clicking off home. Once you've created the content on the slides, click on the slideshow tab and look at this middle section of menus. If I play it without narrations, then the slideshow presentation will not have the audio present. So I press on from beginning. Even though the audio is there as a button, you cannot hear the audio files because narrations are turned off. If I click on use timings, it defaults as use timings. If I click off use timings, then the slides will not change. So in this situation, if I click on from beginning, narrations and timings can enhance a web-based or a self-running slideshow. If you've got a sound card, microphone and speakers, or optionally a webcam and the right licensing, you can record your PowerPoint presentation and capture narrations, slide timings and ink gestures, all in PowerPoint. After you've made the recording, it's like any other presentation that can be played for you or your audience using slideshow, or you can save the presentation as a video file. I'll tell you about that in a bit. Now you'll note now, because I haven't got slide timings on, it's not advancing until I click. When I click, it will start the next slide. So if I press escape from that, use timings is a button when it's ticked. When that box is ticked, it means that the flow of your speech is the flow of the slideshow presentation itself, because PowerPoint, when it's recording the narration, which is what you say, and the timings, which is how you move through your slides. The last one is show media controls. That's in this bottom corner panel here, the show media controls. If you turn that off and play the slideshow, I'm just going to turn off narrations as well, just for the sake of it. You can see there that I don't have the media controls flashing up when I use that button there. So show media controls, and from beginning, and you can see there it gets there. So I've got the media options of playing and turning up the sound. By default, you should have all these three ticked, and I would leave them all ticked unless you've got a very particular reason not to use them. The only one you generally turn off is if you're live presenting a pre-recorded presentation, you turn off play narrations, or if you're asking children or students to go through step by step, slide by slide, you may have a narration for the slide, and then you want them to stay on that slide to do a piece of work or something similar, in which case you'd turn off timings and ask them to click for the next slide. So this here is the main tool area. The rest of it is over this end. So these are all the playing and from current slide options you've got. But if we look at the setup slideshow for a moment, you can see here that it shows you what the show type is. Now, by default, it'll be browsed by an individual or presented by a speaker are the two standard options here, and you can go through them. You can also click on loop continuously until escape. So this would mean this presentation, if it was a short one, could go through with voiceovers over and over again. Really useful for parents' evenings or something similar if you're in school and you want to have a flow on a computer talking through your department or through your faculty or through your learning opportunities or whatever you're talking about in the day. You can click on loop continuously until escape is pressed. You can also do show without narration or animation, and that makes it go through there. So that's the show options. The rest of it along these things is advanced slides manually or use timings. If you untick that box, you're basically flicking it to manual. And then the automatic slideshow monitoring there is how it works. That's just which screen it's on your computer. If you've got multiple screens, you'll get a screen 2 or a screen 1 option. I'm going to cancel that for now. And one final point is when you are rehearsing the timings, you may find it useful to have presenter view. So presenter view I'm not going to go into today, but basically it puts your notes from the notes pages further up on the side of your screen when you're reading, so you can then see what's going on. So click on Setup Show, I can use presenter view, and OK, when I start the slideshow, I can then see. I don't have a second slide. I don't have a second screen, but you then see on your second screen the projection of the slide, and on your first screen you would see the notes as well as the slide itself. So that's very straightforward, but we now need to look at the rehearsal of timings and the recording of slideshow. Now, rehearsed timings allows you to practice the slideshow so you can talk through it, but it will record how much time you spend on the slide, but it will not then record any audio as well. So timings can be used to rehearse how long you want to spend on a slide. And this means if you've got no audio commentary, you can rehearse the timings and PowerPoint will allow you to set it up. This is really useful again if you want to have a slideshow running which has information, and it gives people enough time to read the whole presentation, the whole slide, without having too much or too little time or a default amount of time. Because normally you delay for 10 seconds or so or 5 seconds before switching slides, but you might find that you do it manually. I'm going to go to my blank show now and show you how that works. So these are my slides. I'm just going to put in some slides here. I'm going to say start. And I'm going to just put in the numbers just for the slide. 1, this is going to be 2, and you can tell where I'm going with this, 3, and slide 4. If I go on these slides here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start on this slideshow tab here. I'm going to do rehearse timings. So if I click on rehearse timings, I'm literally just looking at the slide. I'm not recording any audio, but you can see here that PowerPoint has got the recording menu in the corner. And what it's doing is recording the time I spend on this slide. And then when I click next slide, it then resets the counter, so it's recording how much time I spent on this slide. And I can keep on doing that through the different slide numbers until I've completed the presentation. I'm going roughly in order, adding some longer slides and some shorter slides. But by the time I get to the end of the presentation, when I click on it, it says the total time was 28 seconds. Do you want to save for the new slide timings? If I say yes to this option here, I've now got my slideshow where when I present it from the beginning, it will just begin and it will use the timings I've used before, which allows me to read everything on the screen, but without too much or too little delay. It'll then flick the screen forward. So just wait a moment, I'm not going to click anything on my mouse. There you go, I'm onto screen 1, and then it carries on going through. So that's all about recording the slideshow without any commentary. It's just doing rehearsed timings. You can then save those timings or remove the timings by clicking off that tab. Recording slideshow is the final one here. If you click on the icon, you will get the voice record by default. But if you click on the drop down, the lower half of that button, you get some options. This is where my options are a bit limited. So I'm just going to go over clear to start with, because clear allows you to check what's already on the slides and remove those options. So I currently have timings on. I can clear the timing from the current slide, or I can clear the timing on all slides if I want to. And if there was narration, it would clear it on the current slide or all slides too. So I can therefore have a slide with no timings on, but narration on. If I carry on going through this way, I've got two options. I've got start recording from beginning or start recording from current slide. Now, because I'm using this microphone in Teams, I cannot record my audio on PowerPoint as I discussed in the other one. But you can see here, there's just a case of clicking that button and getting it going. The menu you get is much the same as on your rehearsed timings, and you can pause it and you can resume recording and work your way through. This button here is just simply the next slide. That one pauses the recording, so it gives you some chance to think or check your script if you need to. If you want to re-record a slide, you click on this, you resume recording first. You click on the undo, the repeat. It pauses the recording, then you start that slide again. And then the last one here is the overall time clock in use. So escape that. Then we'll come away. So recording the slideshow, the bottom half of the button gives you the same thing. If you have the video capacity as well, you'll have start recording with video as being one of your options. And it'll have start recording video from beginning or start recording video from current slide. And it will just put in that little camera in the corner, and you will see a version of yourself in the bottom corner of your slide, roughly this sort of size. So if you have a camera on and you want to see yourself in the corner, you can be sitting in the corner talking to yourself through PowerPoint. I'm going to go back into this one for a brief moment. I can look here at the timings and transitions. I mentioned about no sound during transitions. So the narration, slide timings, and ink pen. You can use the ink pen highlighter if I press F5 on this. Sorry, on the non-recorded one. If I press F5 just to start my PowerPoint presentation, on the bottom corner, this has got narrations. I need to remove my timings. So I'll just start a new slideshow. New slideshow, blank presentation. Let's see how it goes. Come on, PowerPoint, just do your thing. PowerPoint's decided not to respond. So let's have a look. So if you're talking, you're doing your presentation, you press F5 to start your slideshow, or I'll press your start slideshow. And I have my options. I don't know why it's not showing my full screen on my slideshow. Let's just set up the slideshow. I'm going to view this in just a window here just to see how it goes. I'm going to run the slideshow from the beginning. So here we go. So now I should have the ink available, but my bottom menu is blocking off my menus along here, which allows me to use the ink pens and so on. So I'm a bit stuck. I can't demonstrate this, but you can use the ink pens and so on. If you hover over the bottom left-hand side, you'll be able to see the highlighter options, various other tools. And then when you click and drag on the screen, it puts those things in place. Click on Don't Save there, and I'm going to minimize that one. The other part here, depending on your license, about webcams. This one here is about storing and saving it. So on this presentation here, it's currently a PowerPoint slideshow. That's just file and save as. And you see at the bottom on this PC, it says PowerPoint presentation. Save it once as a PowerPoint presentation every single time, because then you've got the editable version. But then once you've saved it once, then save it again with a different file name, but click on that drop down arrow. So this drop down arrow here, and you want to look for one of three different options. The first one is the PowerPoint show option there. The PowerPoint show, I will save that. Let me just make a new folder. Okay, and this is going to be called lots of A's just for the demonstration purposes. So this is recording presentations show. Okay, and I'm going to go back to this again. I'm going to do file, save as. I'm going to save it in the A's folder. And the other option is that you've got an MP4, an MPEG-4 video, and you can save it there as well. Each time you click on those things, it changes it down to being what it needs to be. And if I just find my A's folder, I'm going to pop this up here. I'm going to go into my desktop where I put the A's folder. And I've now got two options here. So the recording presentation show is a video file. This will work on mobile phones. Okay, and this one here is the recording presentations PowerPoint show, which just starts straight away. So my computer's being a little bit slow on this, but let's see how it works. Narrations and timings can enhance a web-based or a self-running slideshow. If you've got a sound card, microphone and speakers, or optionally a webcam, there's my laser pointer, and the right licensing, you can record your PowerPoint presentation and capture narrations, slide timings, and ink gestures, all in PowerPoint. After you've made the recording, it's like any other presentation that can be played for you or your audience using slideshow. The eraser. You can save the presentation as a video file. I'll tell you about that in a bit. So that was straight to the PowerPoint show, which I now can't edit, and then the recording presentation show is a video file which is popping up here. I'm getting an update on my video player, so no, not right now, thank you. So that would just be a video file to just play, but you can't ink on a video file. So that allows you to use PowerPoint in all its different ways. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to pop back on here. It's been slightly less than 21 minutes today, so if you've got any questions, please feel free to let me know. But using PowerPoint in this way does allow you to interact fully or more fully with your presentation and allows you to pre-prepare your content. Where would you use this? In a flipped learning environment or an online learning or a bubble bursting environment in these COVID times, you might find that you have children who will need to see the presentation but aren't in your classroom. So actually, if you're presenting a presentation live, you could set up your microphone and record yourself at the same time. And then what you're doing is you're not recording yourself in the lesson if you just use audio only, but you can record the voice over the slideshow. And then the children will be able to get that input from the teacher at the same time as seeing what the teacher was sharing. And you just share that PowerPoint show file type instead of the PowerPoint presentation as a whole. You then get the voiceover and every benefit from it. Alternatively, you might want to save it as an MP4 file, as a video file, and parents can access it through either Microsoft Sway or Microsoft Stream or some other service, and they can use phones, tablets, and other devices. That's where the benefits of PowerPoint shows and MP4 files come in. The other reason you might want to use a pre-recorded PowerPoint is if you're recording evidence or if children are trying to record evidence on something. In particular, if it's image-based and they're giving a definition. So I'm thinking about art curriculum here in secondary schools where you've got to critique a piece. You may want to have a PowerPoint slideshow set up with all the artworks on different slides. And then instead of immediately writing down the critique, the children themselves may want to record themselves narrating their slideshow and giving verbal critique on the pieces, and then they can come back to it and listen to their narrations and write down their key points and notes from there for their written work. That's just a few examples there. There's many more things you can do with recorded slideshows, but for now I'm going to call that 21 minutes exactly. Thank you very much for your time. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat. Otherwise, I will put in the chat the details of the Microsoft code, and I shall wish you a good afternoon. Thank you very much for your time.